Okay, so let's talk about money markers in the chart, and I'm going to weave it in a little bit with abundance stuff. Some of you have seen some of this presentation before. I've done it many, many times, and I'll probably do it again sometime soon. Okay? Money in your life equals manifesting, meaning that you create your finances. Asterisk, just like we talked about, we had a conversation last week in one of my classes about what you create in your physical world and how we can't blame people if they get sick and say, oh, your consciousness did, manifested this cancer. That's just cruel and ridiculous. I want you to be really clear that that is part and parcel true for money. Some of us struggle with money, not because we're screwed up or we're broke or we're not having the right consciousness or we haven't accessed the right mindset, blah, blah, blah. Some of you have it built into your life path to learn from this challenge around money. Okay? I'm going to say this in front of you guys so you're not looking at this screen and see my little tiny face. Some of you are here to learn this because it's teaching you something else about consciousness, all right? It's teaching you part of what you're here to learn about support and sufficiency. And sometimes not having money ends up being one of the most powerful catalysts in your life that pushes you onto your right path. I will tell you guys, and then some of you know the story, but I have been over $80,000 in debt. I have filed for bankruptcy in the 2000s. I have lost a house to foreclosure. I have lost cars to the repo man. I have struggled mightily for many, many, many years to rob Peter to pay Paul. It's not my story right now anymore, thank God. But those places of having to literally go onto my knees and say, I don't know what to do. I literally don't know what to do. I have rent due tomorrow and I have no idea what to do. Those moments were my most sublime teaching moments. And truly, I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing now for a living if I hadn't had those moments. I probably would be working as a nurse somewhere delivering babies. I do have fantasies about that still periodically because it seems like that might be easier, but I'm here. Okay, done. So I want to talk about this from a consciousness perspective. I don't want to talk about this from a, what am I doing wrong? Where's my mindset screwed up? All that stuff that we tend to do to ourselves. Let's just look at the mechanics and then let's play with the mechanics and let's remember that we're human brains. The human brains are teeny tiny little things compared to divine mind, and sometimes there's something else bigger going on. And it's good to talk to your clients about that sometimes too, because sometimes we're being taught something on a consciousness level. The biggest place of challenge with clients and sometimes with ourselves is our conditioning when it comes to money in the chart. It's not the design of the chart that's creating the problem with the money. It's the conditioning that creates the intention. And sometimes what happens when we get deeply conditioned is we're intending to create something that actually isn't in alignment with the truth of who we are. And the thing that's so brilliant about that is that the unconscious mind knows when that's happening. And a lot of times what happens is we fail to quote unquote manifest when we're trying to create something that's not good or healthy or wise or in alignment with who we are, because the higher self is smarter than that. Okay? So sometimes when people are stuck or blocked, it's because what they think they're wanting is what they've been conditioned to think that they want, and it's not what they actually really want. So part of your role when you're coaching people around abundance in the chart is to really help them connect back with the truth of who they are and what they really want. And if they don't know what they really want, and that's 85 to 95% of your clients, they don't know what they want because they're conditioned, or they're confused, or they know what they want, but they don't want to admit it to themselves because they're embarrassed or they're ashamed or they're afraid it's not going to ever happen for them, so they've given up in despair, so they don't want to look at it anymore. If they don't know what they want, all they have to do is follow their strategy and it'll show up. That's the beautiful part about strategy. You can sit there and go, yeah, I like that, or no, I don't like that. Or yeah, I like that, no, I don't like that. And you don't have to figure it out in your head, but everybody, generally speaking, is trying to figure this out from their head. So in this particular chart, this is the model that I work with. And basically the model says your human design, your conditioning, I can't see the rest of this chart because of this thing at the top. Your mistaken motivations, meaning the reasons why you do what you do, your unmet energy needs, and your consciousness, your training around prosperity and abundance, create your financial choices or your money choices or your creative capacity. Once you gain awareness, once you work on deconditioning, once you learn to set intentions that are in alignment with the truth of who you are, and once you learn the power of possibility and sufficiency thinking, you become resilient, and then you start to make new choices and you become really, truly alive. Cindy, it looks like people are raising their hands for questions. Do you want to?
Yes, Kim raised her hand.
Kim, do you want to unmute yourself?
Yes. So Karen, I have a question. I have two projectors who have just come to me, and they're confused about their purpose. And you just said it will show up to them to help them get clear of what they want, what they don't want. Is that only for generators, or is that for everybody?
That's for everybody. That's the purpose of strategy. It's for everybody. And in the meantime, with your projectors, tell them to go have fun while they're waiting. Or take a nap.
So would it show, I guess maybe I'm not asking the question right. So as a manifesting generator, it would show up for me like a billboard or a car or, something like that. And then I can respond yes or no to it, or yes, that feels good. So how would that look like for a projector?
They get an invitation. And in the meantime, while they're waiting for the invitation, everything that feels good and yummy and joyful and fun, they go do it.
Right. But if my sacral says yes when it appears, how does the projector know that
it's fun?
It's fun. Okay. Thanks.
It's joyful. It's energizing and not draining. It's satisfying. I know it's hard to imagine people who don't have sacrals what that feels like to them, but but it's still, I mean, it kind of just, if you want to keep it simple, Kim, it distills down to this, and this is true for everybody. Does it feel yummy or does it feel yucky? If it feels yummy, do it. If it doesn't feel yummy, don't do it. That's the bottom line. Truly, that's the synthesis of the human design system, right? Right there. But we have to have this whole system to make it complicated so we can be satisfied while we're waiting to do something important with our brains.
And I see the projectors out there laughing at the stupid manifesting generator that doesn't understand how this works.
No, not at all. Not at all. We love the questions and the inquiry. There's also the authority. The authority in the chart will help them to know how to respond in their own way to the opportunities.
Okay, so Evelyn, one of them is a
slide, please.
He's a self-projected authority. So does he need to talk about that to get clarity? Okay.
Yes.
Well, that's what I have too, is self-projected, so I have to talk it through. And it's got to feel really yummy, because some invitations are not the right invitations. And when you're like me and you're waiting and you're waiting and you're waiting, it's like you're just so happy to get an invitation. But it's not always the right invitation.
The self-projected wants to look at, is this me? Does this feel like me? Because it's their authorities from the G.
Yeah.
Karen?
Yes.
What about the same question for manifestors? I mean, I know the inner click and blah, blah, and all that kind of stuff, but sometimes it just feels more like the whole spaghetti throwing thing, to be honest, really pisses me off. I kind of hate it, because it's just like, and I've also got enthusiasm. Everything feels like a click. Everything feels like, hey, and then things don't work out. And it's like, well, what the hell?
Okay.
I want to be a generator.
You have will authority, will to the throat.
Yeah.
So here's part of what I want you to think about. To a certain degree, you don't have a sacral response when you're will authority, but to a certain degree, the will manifests things in the material plane. So for you, it's about looking at the signs in your world, in your outer reality, and following the signs.
Okay, so how does that differ from what the generators and the manifesting generators do?
It isn't that different, except that you don't have the internal You have a different way of connecting with that response. You don't respond, you're going to feel it in that nonverbal creative flow. That means you're going to go, oh, that, and with your enthusiasm especially, you'll be halfway down the path towards it before you go, okay, I'm going this way. You're already be halfway there by the time you realize, oh, I'm heading this way.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. And again, the guiding principle here, does it feel yummy? Do it. If it doesn't feel yummy, don't do it. Okay?
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. And honestly, I just want to add this other piece, you guys. It takes deconditioning to get clear about the yummy yucky part. If you walked into my office, well, you wouldn't walk into my office, but if you walked into my office and we sat down and I did a reading, and this was the first time you'd ever been introduced to human design, and you're really kind of new on the whole personal growth and development path in the first place. And I said, follow your strategy, even though instantly you might see improvements in the way you feel and your sense of self and what you create in life and in the world. You might not start getting it right, so to speak, for years to come. You might have, greater possibilities of experiencing joy and abundance and sufficiency as this process increases in you, but it does take time to wipe the slate clean of the conditioning and the opportunities that you have to manifest before you, and I mean manifest not in the manifesto way, but in the creative way. The opportunities you have to create while you're deconditioning, even if you might go, oh my God, what a stupid mistake. Everything on your path from that moment is there to help you go, oh, that's not what I really wanted. It's actually part of the process to help you get clear. So there's no making a mistake. There's you discovering through your experimentation what the real you really feels like and the real you really wants. So yeah, you're not going to click your heels together 3 times and poof, all of a sudden follow your strategy and instantly everything you create is in alignment with your higher self for the rest of your life, day in and day out. You're still going to be learning, and the opportunities for growth and expansion never stop. Just saying. So maybe we give up this whole idea of beating ourselves up when we think we're making a mistake or it's not working out. Part of it is about revisiting the definition of what is abundance. And I think that's something I might encourage us all to, on a personal level, really dive into this conversation, because I think this entire notion is subject to redefinition at the moment. I think we're all consciously and unconsciously redefining it on a collective level. We're going to have to if we're going to stay sustainable in the world. And, I always say the baseline for abundance is the Abundance Manifesto, which you'll get a copy of when you come to conference this year. Okay? But one of the statements in the Abundance Manifesto, which is a long sort of, well, it's a manifesto that I wrote about abundance, is that I'm always doing it right. I'm always growing and changing. Even the mistakes that you make along the way while you're discovering deeper truths about who you are, they're not mistakes. That's you doing it right. That's you teaching yourself what's correct for me, what's in alignment with the truth of who I am. All right. The nature of who we are by design is abundant. We are designed to be abundant. It's in the 55, which, as we go through this mutation, is an energy that is becoming stronger and a greater driver in the chart. The 55 is an emotional frequency. And I really want to define for you what I mean by emotional frequency, because I think even the notion of what it means to be emotional is changing. The definition of emotional is changing. We think emotional and we think, you know, drama and all this intensity, high-powered stuff, right? And certainly that's a quality of emotional energy, but in the context of the 55 and in the context of an evolving emotional solar plexus, what we see is that abundance or sufficiency, because this is sufficiency, is something we create in our lives when we hold the energetic expectation that we will be provided for. This is faith. And it's the faith that says, I have enough food, I have enough water, I am enough, I have everything I need to fulfill my destiny, I have everything I need to fulfill my purpose. I am supported. And I stay in a state of expectation that I will be supported. I don't know how I'm going to be supported. I don't know what's going to show up for me to demonstrate that support. I don't know what it's going to look like, but I know that I am. And it's in that holding of that frequency of energy, and that's a frequency of energy. When we hold that frequency of energy, it actually, oh, I forgot, I can't do this with this thing. Hang on, I'm going to show you this. It actually, through the vagal nerve and the mind body, the mind gut, the gut brain, okay, it actually, this is what the mystical circuit, okay? This is a circuit that we don't talk about very often. There is actually a circuit in the chart called the mystical circuit, which is the circuit of manifesting. This frequency of energy in the 55, this expectation that I am supported, I have everything I need to fulfill my purpose. This expectation is a frequency of energy that calibrates the monopole, the magnetic monopole, which then in turn attracts into your life everything you need to embody that sufficiency. So the thing about the 55 in the chart, and the most important thing to notice, is it's not on the sacral. Okay, it's on the solar plexus. You are abundant based on how you hold frequencies of energies with consciousness, not based on how much work do you do. And when people come to you and they say, what's going on with me and money, usually the very first thing we have to look at is, what are they doing? Because they think it's in the doing that they generate the income. And that's secondary to the frequency of abundance that they hold. And if they are associating their value with what they do rather than with who they are, it's going to mess up their money situation. And if it's not messing up their money situation, it's going to mess up their health or their relationships or their right path or their spiritual fulfillment or something else. The next place where we see abundance in the chart is in the 14-2. And yes, this is sacral. But think about the nature of this channel. First of all, it's purely generated, right? It's not a manifested generated energy. It doesn't make it to the throat. So it's a way of creating money or resources or connections or anything else that you would consider to be a resource. It's a way of creating a resource in response. It's still being dictated by the generous nature of the universe. It's the world unfolding at your feet that's giving you the opportunity to respond to where you need to go and be to create the resources you need to fulfill your life purpose. Now, in this channel, there's only one gate that's connected to the sacral, obviously, right? And that's the 14. So the 14 acts in response. The 2 is the most yin of the hexagrams in the chart. It's yin-yin. It says, I'm designed to receive all of the support that I need to fulfill my purpose. Because I am. It's on the G, right? Not because of what I do, not because of my college degree, not because of what caste I was born into or whatever. It's because you exist. By the way, don't panic about going through this in your chart and other people's charts. I'm talking about the chart in general here. Certainly, I would say for people with the 14, they're always looking for the next thing to respond to create the money. The 2 is always struggling to figure out what's the right thing to do to receive the money so I can manage it correctly and make it last longer. The next place where we see energy for money is in the 4521. And it's actually in, this is actually called the money line, right? It's a motor to the throat, and it's willpower. So certainly you can will your way through pushing towards creating resources. But let's talk about this energy, because I think we really misunderstand this energy. We have this idea that if we just push through hard enough, we can create it, right? That's the will. But first of all, what's the nature of the will center? The will center works to rest, right? And built into the will center, we have cycles of sufficiency. I know I probably bored you guys to death with this story, but there is the story of manna in the Old Testament is just the perfect metaphor for this energy. In the Old Testament, the people, or we'll just call them the people. The people are crossing the desert, right? They've just escaped from Pharaoh out of Egypt. They've escaped from slavery. They're wandering in the desert. They have no food. They have no water. And they're like, what are we going to do? Oh my God, we're going to die, right? And God says, don't worry, I got it. Every day I'm going to give you just enough food. Call it manna. You have to go gather it. If you gather more than you need, it's going to rot. The extra will rot. If you have a neighbor who can't take care of themselves, you may gather extra and give it to your neighbors. And on the 6th day, I will give you double portions, because on the 7th day, I want you to chill and rest and take care of yourself so that you have sustainable energy for the next week. This is the story of the will center, right? Chill out, surrender, trust me, or trust the universe. Take what you need. Don't take more than what you need. And take consistent cycles of rest, because you'll need it to keep yourself replenished and restored so you can do the work that's called to be done when it's time, right? But we skip the rest part. In fact, we judge the rest part in the Western culture, right? Idle hands do the work of the devil, we say. Who said, right? Not only that, but there's value and self-worth in this center. What's my value if I rest? How many of us struggle with our self-worth, and we don't value ourselves enough to take care of ourselves first so that we can be sustainable in the world and generate more resources? Because that's actually what happens when you're more sustainable. When your energy is working right, your capacity to create goes up, not down, right? When you're working in alignment with your authentic self and you're resting and taking care of yourself and you're exercising and you're eating well or sleeping and, getting a massage or whatever, or you're going, whatever it is for you, going to see Blade Runner 2 and eating a big bag of popcorn, maybe that's your self-care. That sounds pretty darn good right now, doesn't it? When you're doing that and you sustain yourself, your capacity to create, and ultimately, and this is part of what's in this 4521, to create and to contribute, not just to yourself, but to your loved ones, to your tribe, your capacity to share those resources goes up. And here's the other piece. The low expression of this is burnout. If you are not taking care of yourself, not nurturing yourself, not allowing yourself to be supported, and not giving yourself permission to rest, and you get crispy fried, I promise you that if you're burned out, you will repel. Or you certainly won't retract, because we can't repel. Mechanically, we don't repel. But you certainly can't attract opportunities to do more than what you're doing. In fact, you won't attract anything because your higher self says, oh, I'm too tired. I don't want any more opportunities. Please don't send me any more clients. Please don't give me any more business ideas. Please, no opportunities. I'm done. I need to go to the couch, right? I'll tell you this, 99.9% of your clients aren't manifesting or are having problems with money because they're burned out. And if you can help them with the self-care piece and the burnout piece, which means bring them back in sync with who they are and help them repair the energy leaks that they've encountered over the course of their life because they haven't been true to who they are, you can tackle that first. That's the most powerful thing you can do to help them make more money. Get them back restored with their authentic energy and their vitality in place. I'm going to stop here for a second. Are you guys good? I can't see you guys. I'm feeling extraordinarily preachy today. I apologize. Are you all good?
I like it.
All right. Good.
Totally accurate about the burnout.
Okay. And by the way, just in case my generators and manifesting generators have forgotten this, you can also burn out. Okay? You can just fake it better than the others. All right. So when I talk about money with my clients, this is the model that I often use. So I want to walk you guys through this model. This model, first of all, goes, in order to get what you want, you have to know what you want. And we all know that 99.9% of our clients are so conditioned, they have no idea what they really want. So there's the first reason why they're struggling to create something in their life. Number two, you have to believe you can have it, which means you don't have to believe, because, as I've been reminded recently, things that are impossible are not necessarily impossible, they're just improbable. Okay, you can increase your probability when you are better capable of holding that vibrational frequency of sufficiency and you trust in your support. It will make it more likely that something that is seemingly improbable can show up in your reality. The one thing that's going to influence that faith piece, or one of the most important pieces that influence that faith piece, is your own sense of personal value. Are you worthy of receiving it? So when you can move your clients into seeing the value of who they are by virtue of their existence, you increase their capacity to allow themselves to believe that they can have good money, support, relationships, health, whatever. And then third part of the model says you have to take guided action to get it. And I put this in here in this specific language for a reason. So many of the abundance programs and teachings that we see are so heavily weighted on action. And as we know from human design, action isn't going to be the creative part of it, or at least not just random action. The idea of doing the same thing over and over again and going out and making cold calls, or just all the terrible things sometimes we're told by society that we should do to create success. Those kinds of actions don't get us anywhere except more burned out. Guided actions are simply this. A, follow your strategy. Okay, by type. If you're doing what showed up correctly in your reality based on your type, you're in alignment. And B, while you're waiting for the right creative flow, something to respond to, the invitation or the 28 days, while you're waiting, deliberately and consciously and with great love, take care of yourself and tend to your vibrational frequency. Put yourself in a situation where you are consistently bathing in high frequency energies. Use really good essential oils, get good sleep, take naps, go sit in the hot tub, Think happy thoughts. Go watch puppy videos on YouTube or baby videos. Whatever you have to do to keep yourself in a space where your heart resonance is open and you are trusting and having faith. That's your action to take when nothing seems to be happening. Robin Wynn can go watch whales, okay? That's what you can do, Robin. Your emotions drive the process. Emotions are the energy that drives this. And now we get a little bit more complex than is in the slideshow, but the emotions that we generate stem from our conditioning and the meanings we give the experiences in our life. If your emotions are going the route of stinking thinking and feeling bad, then you have an invitation, and this is important for your clients too, you have an invitation to take a step back and go, okay, when I think about concepts and archetypes like sufficiency, being supported, abundance, money, hard work, time off, all of these things are not necessarily things that have any emotional charge to them, except for the emotional charge that we give them. And that emotional charge that we give these concepts comes from our conditioning. So you have to really look at, what are my meanings? What beliefs do I have? What meanings do I have associated with archetypes related to abundance? And change those meanings. And this is where, of course, I think the quantum alignment program is so important, because it gives you some tools to get in there and actually change the epigenetic meaning and the conditioning field, so that you start to generate different emotions and different meanings, or different meanings and then emotions, in response to the archetypes related to abundance. And of course, tend to your vibrational frequency. So if you want to help your clients discover what they want, teach them to follow their strategy, their authority, remind them to get out of their head and ajna. The minute they say things like, well, I'm trying to figure out, stop them cold. Because nobody can figure anything out. It's a myth, all right? I mean, you can, but it's probably not going to be right. Knowing what you don't want is an important part of learning what you do want. And that's part of where that quote unquote, I'm making a mistake. You're not making a mistake. You're discovering what you don't want. And that's an important piece. And then look at your conditioning field. What's driving what you think it is that you want? Keep your wants and desires open-ended. Engage in the world with curiosity and wonder, with the expectation that there's some clue out here and I got to go find it. You're exploring the possibilities of the universe. You don't have the answers, just the questions. Allow yourself to discover the next step, or maybe I would even allow the next step to discover you. Pay attention to how your answers feel and follow the ones that feel good, yummy. What would it take for? How can I consistently? What do I need to do in order to create? What's keeping me from? What needs to happen for me to become more clear? These are the kinds of questions you can ask. And I really invite you to look at, for yourself personally, what are your current questions about your abundance? What questions do you need to be asking to help you, or to help the right answers to your questions find you, so that you can tap into a higher experience of sufficiency in your life? That's for you guys personally.